Hey YouTube, Cadillac Doctor here. It's been a long time. We're still working on the 2008 DTS. It's been a couple of years now since it's needed anything. Today it needs front struts. The problem is actually the bearings at the top of the strut. So this vehicle is suffering from something called memory steer. It's typical to front wheel drives when you have seized upper strut bearings and they are either making noise or they're sticking. Memory steer is when you make let's say you make a left-hand corner and then the vehicle wants to pull to the left, you make a right-hand corner, then it wants to pull to the right. That's because the strut that's located at the top, the strut bearing rather, that's located at the top of the strut under here is binding or it's seized. So it's basically jittering around rather than operating smoothly. So we're going to go ahead and change out those quick struts right now. Now I've mentioned it in other videos too. It's important that you lift these vehicles properly. They cannot be supported right here. Do you see where that says jack? Don't jack it up there. You'll end up with a big gap in the body between the front of the door and the back of the fender. It's going to look ugly. Make sure you jack it up on the frame rail right there. Both sides properly supported. Don't rely on a hydraulic jack to save your life. Hydraulics fail. Always have something that's mechanically locked in place like jack stands. Or if you have a hoist in your garage or shop, make sure it's set down on the safety latches. So as you could see before, I've already removed the wheels off of the car. Not really a big deal to do that. There are a couple of things to note. This brake hose here has a bracket that keeps it in place and away from rubbing the tire, and the cable for the anti-lock brake wheel speed sensor right there. So we got to disconnect those as well. And then these two large bolts have to come out. The two nuts have to come off. Two large bolts have to come out. It's a good idea to mark them so you can get them fairly close so that you can get it to the alignment shop after the fact without cooking the crap out of your tires. Tires are expensive. Let's not shave them off if we don't have to. Now, something to note as well. If your vehicle is equipped with MagneRide, it's going to have a little solenoid right kind of back there with another cable attached to it. You'll have to disconnect that cable as well. Keep in mind that there are delete kits for the MagneRide, although there is a much superior ride offered by the correct operation of the MagneRide. So, you know, if finances permit, I highly recommend getting the MagneRide struts. This vehicle was not equipped with MagneRide from factory, so we'll carry on. So like I was saying before, it's a good idea to mark these so that your camber stays relatively the same when you put everything back together. So that's our reference point there. These are elongated holes. They're slotted holes in the struts themselves. So we're going to try to get it as close to lined up as we can. Typically, I mark mine front and back. Sorry about that. I'm putting my fingers in front of the camera here. And then we have two reference points. We can get it as close as we can. Again, so we don't have any major drivability issues as far as stability, and we're not cooking the tires off on the way to the alignment shop. So just for the sake of speed and ease, I'm going to use an air-powered impact wrench to remove the two nuts. Now, inside here, there are some splines that kind of hold everything still until you start to knock the two bolts forward out of here, and then everything kind of falls limp and kind of loses its pattern. So that's why we always make sure we have our reference marks before we remove any hardware. Okay, so now as you can see, we've got the both nuts out, one of the studs out, and I forgot to mention these are going to require a little bit of multi-angle swing press to knock those out of there. They're in there a little bit tight. As soon as you get that that second one out, everything's going to kind of come loose. You want to make sure that the knuckle doesn't fall too far away from the. You don't want to separate the tripod or the CV joint on either end of the CV shaft. So you don't want it to like fall way out here. So sometimes having a second person present just to kind of help hold things from completely disintegrating might not be a terrible idea. It can be done by yourself, but yeah, you just have to kind of keep control of it as you knock those both of those bolts out. So once those are out, all that's left are these 3 bolts on the top. And same thing again, you'll have to support the strut, usually by holding it here, or you can grab one of the coils of the spring, hold it upwards. That way it doesn't fall down and tear a hole in the CV boot. So here's what the complete strut assembly looks like once it's out. So the concern is up in here, there's a bearing. Oh, you can see that kind of orange bit there. And it's binding up. So if I were to, hopefully I can get a good bite on this. I put a couple of these bolts back in. Do you hear that? That should be almost completely free to move right now. It should be rotating smoothly and not binding like that. So that's what we're doing here. That's why we're replacing these. Putting them back in, pretty much the reverse effort. Obviously consulting the service manual, or most of the specs are available online for torque specs. Again, folks, make sure you take this to the alignment shop right after the job. You don't want to be taking unnecessary life out of your tires and or creating pulls or other drivability issues. Anyway, until next time, I'm the Cadillac Doctor.